Hi, I want to take an opportunity to talk about your question, a really good question, and I like it when students think critically. Now, I'm a university professor. I teach deaf culture, deaf heritage, and deaf literature, different topics like that, and that's my passion. And I want to start with something that may not seem completely related, but I promise that it is, so follow me as I connect the dots a little bit. So, your question was, if someone can teach to learn to speak, they should do that. And that's a very interesting thought. One, really, actually, there's several different problems with that. But first of all, deaf people are never going to be hearing. They will always be deaf throughout their lives. And how they communicate varies. Many different methods of communication for deaf. Some are oral, and that's a very difficult life. I can only imagine. It's a long, hard life having hearing aids, cochlear implants, speech therapy that is intense and persistent. A long, steady process of learning how to use speech, and it's not 100% successful. In fact, most, now as a researcher, I'm going to always say the words the research shows because I'm a university professor and I'm a researcher myself. But research shows that 90% of deaf children are born to hearing families. Only 1 of 5 of those families will learn any sign language at all. Now, that means most children are not exposed to language as they're born, and they're often language deprived, and that language deprivation is very severe. Language deprivation happens when a child is not exposed to language or not enough language between the ages of 1 and 5. And most deaf children are born to hearing families. Most of those families, 90%, and this is called the law of 90%, is documented. 90% of those families that are born with deaf children would choose oralism. And as they go along, they realize that 90% of those oral children fail at oralism. That means that 90% of those children actually move into the deaf community at a later age. But that language deprivation is already there, and it's irreversible, and it's lifelong. It's a cognitive and mental brain damage, and that's my field of study. Because 90% of deaf people grow up and eventually turn back to ASL community, and we embrace, submit to that community, it's important to understand that speech and speech training isn't that effective. Most deaf people, 90%, don't stay oral in hearing society. Most gravitate toward in their journey to the deaf community. Typically, my reaction as I ask people, I've interviewed many people, I've been deaf for 35 years. Most of the people that I talk to say they're actually very angry with their families because they forced them to be oral at first, and they wish that they had been ASL from the beginning. And that's heartbreaking to see so much of that. The negative effects of families forcing oralism on their children. Now, I was deaf at the age of 10, and that's why I can speak. I used to be able to hear very well, but I was born hearing, and at age 10, I started losing my hearing, and now I'm completely deaf. I have 4 deaf children myself who were deaf from birth. I never taught any of them oralism, and they're all very successful, happy, graduated high school, going to college, doing well, and they're only ASL. And they have a very strong deaf identity in who they are, and they're proud of who they are, and I believe that God has made them deaf, and me too. The Bible says that God said, "Who makes the deaf? Who makes the blind? Who makes the lame? Is it not I, the Lord?" Okay? God created us the way that we are. And then some of my friends, like my deaf pastor friends, that believe that when we get to heaven, we'll also still be deaf. And I think that's wonderful. And I hope that it's true. I hope that we will get to remain to be deaf. I don't want to be hearing. It's like most of my deaf friends, they say the same thing. It's very rare to meet a deaf person who actually wants to be hearing. There's not a lot of them out there. Now, coming to all of that to get to the point of your question. Okay, should we teach deaf people speech? That's interesting. When a deaf person can speak and they meet a hearing person, they begin speaking, almost immediately the hearing person will assume that they're hearing and they'll start speaking back. The deaf person indicates that they're deaf and it throws the hearing person off. But you were just speaking to me. You must be hearing. And they'll speak back. No, I'm deaf. And it very much is confusing for hearing people. Okay, it's hard for the brains to understand that speaking and hearing are two different skills. When I speak, I notice that the burden of communication falls on me. When I speak, it doesn't benefit me. It benefits the hearing person only. That means I still have to work even harder to understand what's being said, or to tell them, you can't speak to me, you have to write to me. And most hearing people at that point are very stubborn. They won't write anything down. But I've learned throughout my life and all these years that benefit of speaking isn't for me, it's for the other person. If I immediately say I'm deaf and I start writing, they will write back to me. The burden of communication is then split between both of us, half and half. It's more equal, more fair. And that's why I don't encourage deaf people to learn how to speak. Instead, learn good English, learn how to read and write. Literacy, now that's an important skill to have. The most important thing is language. Deaf children naturally innate, and research shows this, they have a natural ability to pick up visual language. That visual language is 100% accessible to all deaf, whether they're deaf or hard of hearing. That language visually is accessible. Oral language isn't. And therefore, language becomes the priority. That language can lead to literacy, can lead to success, can lead to all those things. When language deprivation happens, it's permanent. It's where the brain actually shrinks. The gray matter on the brain is damaged, and you can't be reversed when it's done. And therefore, language first is key. And I hope that you will be passionate to research more yourself. Autism is the key word for you to research. 2 videos I suggest for you. One is Autism Unveiled. You can rent it. It's very amazing. It's about $6, $5, something like that to rent. Very good to watch, and it's 2 hours. Now the other one I suggest is free on YouTube. It's called Through Deaf Eyes. Both of these, my university classes are required to watch and write a paper on. For you, you're in 7-star, so you're not required to. You're only 13. You're not ready for college level class. But if you're interested and passionate and you want to learn more about what autism is, I strongly suggest that you rent and watch either one or both these movies. And I hope that helps you understand my viewpoint and maybe realize, this is that person and their opinion about it. It may not change your opinion, but maybe it'll help you think about it a little bit. We'll see. And good to see you, and keep asking those hard questions. That's the best way for us to grow and learn. Bye.